Stocks drift after a strong open as the surge in crude prices dampens the sentiment. Autos and industrials lead gains while IT and FMCG drag.
The OPEC Plus delivers a surprise with a proposed 1.16 million barrels per day output cut from May. Stocks of oil producers rally even as those of oil users witness some pressure.
Auto sales for the month of March are a mixed bag. Maruti sounds a note of caution, says there are red flags for the auto sector which could hit demand, while two-wheeler domestic sales have seen double-digit growth in the month of March.
And the Gas Committee Chair, Kirit Parekh, tells CNBC-TV18 he's hopeful of the Cabinet clearing most of the recommendations soon. Even analysts stay hopeful, but IGL and MGL slip on the deferral of APM price revision.
Tata Power charges up on revision of tariffs in Mumbai. CSB Bank gains and Karnataka Bank loses after their quarterly updates, while an important regulatory nod sparks a rally in Time Technoplast.
Well, good afternoon. Welcome to Halftime Report. I'm Sonia Shenoy and with me is Ekta Batra. Well, the market is very, very quiet, so not too much happening as far as the headline index is concerned. It is a truncated week. It's one of those rare weeks where we have two holidays in the week. So I guess everyone's out and about. The volumes are on the thinner side as well. But the space to be in this afternoon undoubtedly is autos. All your auto stocks are up and about, and we'll get into greater detail on that. But for now, that's the space to be. Apart from that, you have a couple of these, pharma names like Divi's Labs that are trending higher. But all in all, you'd have to say the mid-cap end of trade has a bit of action. Otherwise, the frontliners are so very quiet, Ekta.
Hi, Sonia. Well, yes, we don't mind quiet as long as it's not volatile at this point. But nonetheless, definitely a quiet day of trade, a stock-specific action. So there seems to be a lot which is taking place underneath the surface. For example, the mid-cap index is up around 0.3%. A lot of the stocks managing to gain within the broader markets. And the larger sectors which seem to be in focus on account of news is definitely oil and gas, as well as the auto space, which is in focus on account of the March sales figures, which we will be talking about in just a bit. But just separately, watch out for a lot of these stocks which are at fresh 52-week highs, despite the kind of consolidation that we're seeing in the market. For example, Dr. Reddy's, Ultratech Cement, Manappuram, Anandraj, across sectors is where you're seeing stock-specific buying taking place, and a couple of these stocks seem to stand out in terms of the price action. But the big story that we're tracking, besides oil and gas, is definitely what's happening with regards to the auto sales. Sonia, tell us more. You've been looking at the numbers all throughout. What does March stack up like?
So, there are some big trends, and I thought I'd just put them on board because, it'll help for easy understanding. The first big trend that I noticed in terms of auto sales is that the commercial vehicle space has done very well this time around. So, if you look at it, Ashok Leyland, Eicher Motors, Tata Motors actually underperformed, but Ashok Leyland and Eicher Motors have shown a very strong demand momentum. Ashok Leyland growth was 19%. Eicher Motors, Volvo Eicher commercial vehicle growth has been 35.2%. Tata Motors surprisingly has underperformed its peers. The CV sales were absolutely flat, but overall the trend was good. The second big trend, in fact, let's get the Tata Motors management view on board as well. Despite underperforming its peers, they are very optimistic on the commercial vehicle sector. Girish Wagh, who's the executive director of Tata Motors, says that there's a robust demand for heavy trucks required to service the strong infrastructure push by the government. There's increased activity in e-commerce, construction and mining. There's higher replacement demand, advanced buying as well. And the sentiment is very strong. So that's about commercial vehicles. Next, let's move on to two-wheelers. Now, the big trend I noticed here is that domestic growth has come back. There could be reasons for this, but first let's put the numbers on board. Hero MotoCorp, that's why the stock is up 3.5%, is because it's reported a total sales growth of 15% this time around. Of course, on the back of a low base. TVS Motor as well, domestic sales growth was about 22%. Now, channel checks indicate that the reason for this good momentum is because there were supply constraints at Honda's scooter end, and that helped players like Hero MotoCorp and TVS. In fact, TVS's electric scooter iQube has crossed 15,000 units in March for the second straight month in a row, so it's doing very well. And for FY23, TVS has outperformed the domestic mass market two-wheeler industry. Royal Enfield as well registered its highest ever sales of 8.34 lakhs in FY23. But let's move on. The space which has been on fire for the last many months is the SUV segment. And over there, M&M's SUV business has hit an all-time high number with a growth of 31% in March. The auto sector overall for M&M has also done very well because of that. And Maruti told us in their conversation a couple of hours ago that their SUV market share, which is just 11% right now, can grow to 25% by the end of FY24. So that's one pocket which is looking very good. And the final trend, what I noticed, is that X of the SUV segment, the passenger car space, the small car segment is under a bit of pressure. In fact, Maruti said that there are looming red flags in the auto sector which could dampen demand further, and replicating a 20% growth that they did in FY23 is not possible in FY24. Tata Motors as well has seen a low single-digit growth in the passenger vehicle sales. The growth was just about 4%. So these are 4 or 5 big trends in the auto space. In fact, let's get an expert on this now. Aniket Mhatre, who is the analyst at HDFC Securities, joins in. He's been helpful with a lot of data points as well for the data that I put out earlier. Aniket, thanks for joining us. Of the 4 large trends that I spoke about, which one stands out to you the most? And in terms of specific stocks, how are you positioned now?
Yeah, hi, good afternoon, Sonia. Thanks for having me on your show. So clearly, as you rightly highlighted, right, the commercial vehicle sector has seen a very strong growth momentum over the last few quarters, and it continues to do very well. Part of this momentum, if you see, is also got to do with the fact that the industry is going through an emission norm change, wherein prices are expected to increase by about 5 to 7% at an industry level. So most of the fleet operators who would be wanting to buy their fleet are expected to prepone their purchase decision, which is also what you're seeing in Q4 numbers for CVs. How the whole sector pans out in Q1 is anybody's guess, but we expect a much softer Q1 overall for the CV space in that regards. As far as passenger vehicles segment is concerned, yes, the overall numbers have started tapering off a bit from a very strong order momentum or order backlog over the last few months. We are seeing the order backlog slowly come off with, of course, production levels sort of normalizing over the last few months for most of the players, and hence we are also seeing the PV space slowly sort of the growth rate sort of tapering off in the last few months. You rightly pointed out Tata Motors has sort of looked at a single-digit growth. In fact, if you remove the EVs from that number, Tata Motors PV sales is actually negative 3% for March. Maruti has reported a flat number, and M&M has done exceedingly well. But even Kia, for instance, has reported a negative growth this month, which is the first negative month for Kia for a long time now. So PVs is clearly sort of decelerating. And two-wheelers, yes, they have sort of seen a good growth, but as we have sort of highlighted, it's also come on the back of 2 things. One is the BS6 transition, which has helped them push a lot of stock in the system. Second, Honda motorcycles is witnessing significant supply constraints, which is helping the scooter space and also 125cc category in that regard. In terms of stock specific, what we like in the sector is our top picks are TVS Motors, Mahindra and Mahindra, and we also like Maruti Suzuki here. So those are what we are pushing to clients at the moment within the OEM space.
Okay, well, Aniket, it seems as though you've answered all of our questions in one go. But I just wanted to dwell a little further on the entire SUV space and how you would probably approach it going into FY24, because M&M seems to be blazing through, with all-time highs in terms of SUV sales. But Maruti is quite confident in terms of increasing market share as well. So going into FY24, if you had to choose between the 2 stocks when it comes to the SUV space, which one would it be? Which one do you think has possibly more potential to rise? And your overall approach towards both of these stocks in comparison to each other?
Sure. So just to start off with, we have a positive bias towards both the names. But if you have to compare specifically for within SUVs, between the 2 stocks, clearly I think Maruti would stand out for the simple reason that it is for the bulk of FY23, it has actually lost market share. You would have noticed Grand Vitara was launched about in October, and they ramped up to full numbers in Q4 only. So the full benefit of Grand Vitara will only come next year. Also, you have the Fronx and Jimny which have been unveiled, but the current sales numbers do not include those. So Jimny and Fronx put together have a 40,000 kind of a order backlog already, and you would have heard your own channel sort of highlighting wherein Maruti's management had come in, and they are talking about very aggressive numbers next year. So they sort of want to move back to leadership position in SUVs. In fact, they have also indicated that they want the Nexa brand to be the number 2 brand overall in FY24, wherein this year they are expected to clock around 3,77,000 for the Nexa. Next year that should go to as high as 6 lakh units, which would mean that Maruti will regain the top spot in SUVs in that regard. From 11% market share for FY23, they are targeting 25% market share for FY24. They are already at 18% market share in Q4 as we speak. So they are going all guns blazing to recover back their lost share. And hence between the two, I think as far as UV space is concerned, I think Maruti should possibly do better than M&M, although we expect both of them to gain market share next year.
Okay. I want to come back to the two-wheeler space because you did mention that one of your top picks is TVS Motor, and I get that because TVS has had very good growth, especially in the electric vehicle segment with the iQube, etc., doing so well, and that's the future, right? But I wanted your thoughts on Hero MotoCorp because now I think the rural piece is recovering as well. Hero has benefited from some of the supply constraints that Honda was facing. But then there's also that Honda new 100cc bike that could threaten Hero's dominance in that space. So how do you, negotiate all of these headwinds for Hero? Is it a good buy now or would you stay away?
Right. So clearly this stock has corrected quite a bit and hence valuations are very attractive and we remain positive on the name. But I would not very frankly agree to the view that rural is recovering at the moment because as far as our channel checks goes, rural is still not back to the normal levels. In fact, we are not seeing a pickup in the entry level space where Hero dominates. Hero has almost 80% plus market share in the entry motorcycle category, which is currently languishing. If you look at the YTD up to Feb numbers, right, the motorcycle industry would have grown in mid-teens. But the what has driven growth is 125cc and 150cc, which has grown almost 30%, while the 100cc category is just about flattish on a year-on-year basis, which is where Hero dominates. And why that segment is flattish is because the rural segment is still not recovering. Yes, there are marriages that are ongoing and that is sort of kicked off well, but we at the moment do not see rural segment recovering. Some sort of stock push also at the company level to get benefit of the BS6 phase 2 transition. Also, as I rightly highlighted, HMSI is facing significant supply constraints, which has also helped March numbers. Going into FY24, given that rural continues to languish, we are hopeful that rural will recover in FY24, given the positive sentiments that are there. Reservoir levels continue to be very positive, and hence that should help the agri segment. And hence we expect discretionary consumption to sort of pick up in FY24, which would help Hero's entry level category to do well. That's the reason we are positive on the name.
Okay, that's on. All right. Any other thoughts that you want to leave us with? I mean, we had a discussion with Maruti a while back where Maruti mentioned that there are big red flags looming, which could sort of drag the industry lower. They're talking about a 5 to 7% growth for the industry in FY24. That's paltry compared to the 20% growth that they did in FY23. Do you think all of that is in the price, or do you think there could be more to go on the downside for the passenger vehicle stocks?
I think the passenger vehicle segment, as I said, has been seeing some deceleration in growth rates clearly, and which is why most of the companies are incrementally highlighting a single-digit growth. But what sort of excites us is that the new model launches from both Maruti and M&M, and hence we are positive on the names. In terms of incremental data points, I think the commercial vehicle space, although as I said, is doing very well so far, I think a lot of it has also got to do with pre-buy that has helped the CV space in Q4, and we expect Q1 to be relatively soft in that sense, and hence overall FY24 may not be again as strong for the CV sector as it has been in FY23, which is why we remain a bit cautious on the CV sector per se for FY24.
Okay, all right, Aniket, we're going to leave it on that note. Thanks very much for joining in and speaking with us. Could be cautious on the auto sector going forward, but nonetheless, there's definitely a lot of traction coming into specific stocks today within that entire space. We need to take a short break, but we'll get you more on the markets and stock-specific action on the other side. Stay tuned.
ना इधर ना उधर, इस बार टाटा आईपीएल सिर्फ जियो सिनेमा पर।
अरे अभी तक मटेरियल आया नहीं।
पैसे नहीं है। मटेरियल कैसे आएगा?
अच्छा,
पैसे का आप भी टेंशन मत लो। यू ग्रो कैपिटल का ग्रो एक्स ऐप है ना, अब आपको भी मिल सकती है नॉन स्टॉप बिजनेस करने की आजादी।
इतनी जल्दी?
The commodity markets are in a bull run of sorts.
Whenever the world moves from a recession to growth, there is a surge in demand for commodities.
Where crude, sugar and metals are surging. Which commodities should be a part of your portfolio? How can you profit from the current surge in commodity prices?
Has the Indian investor warmed up to commodity in their portfolios? And are there enough instruments available?
Get the complete lowdown on commodities, all the exclusives with analysis and experts from across the world. Commodity champions at these times.
बारिश, धूप और धूल से आपके घर को सालों साल बचाए। ड्यूलक्स वेदरशील पावर फ्लेक्स, घर का चैंपियन।
लो आ गई।
मम्मा, और कोई ऑप्शन है क्या?
मम्मा, लाइफ में और कहीं ऑप्शंस मिले ना मिले, मोतीलाल ओसवाल आपको देता है ऑप्शंस ट्रेडिंग में ऑप्शंस। इंट्रोड्यूसिंग मोतीलाल ओसवाल ऑप्शन स्टोर विद अ वाइड रेंज ऑफ ऑप्शंस इन ऑप्शंस ट्रेडिंग। एक्सप्लोर करो ऑप्शन स्टोर। Investment in securities market is subject to market risks. Read all the related documents carefully before investing.
Welcome back. Well, just watch out for a couple of these hospital stocks because they are seeing a little bit of a decline. For example, Apollo Hospitals is down around 1.6%. And maybe the likes of Medanta should come up for you because that is seeing a little bit of profit booking in today's trading session. There are some reports which are doing the rounds with regards to possibility of reservation of some amount of beds, maybe around 20% of beds in Gurugram for multi-speciality hospitals for economically weaker sections. We've reached out to the hospitals to get more of a comment from them, but as of now, we've not really heard back. So we're waiting by for a comment or an official comment from the hospitals, but this is possibly weighing on the stocks as of now in terms of a report. But a whole host of banks are reacting to their Q4 FY23 business update. Abhishek is here with the details on this.
Well, to begin with, Karnataka Bank, negative surprise coming in from their loan book has shrunk quarter on quarter. So deposit momentum has remained healthy, but it's lower than what the industry level is, growing at 8.7% YOY and about 3.3% quarter on quarter. The loan growth not that surprised negatively, growing by just 6.2% YOY and a decline of 3.7% quarter on quarter. So the CASA or low-cost deposit mobilization has remained largely in line with what their deposit momentum has been, 8.7% growth YOY and about 6.7% quarter on quarter. So CASA ratio flat on a YOY basis, but it has improved on a sequential basis. CSB Bank, strong business momentum continued for second quarter in a row. The deposits are up 21.5% YOY and about 8% sequentially. The CASA is up 16% YOY, but about 10.7% sequentially. So the CASA ratio has improved on a sequential basis. Advances growth remained robust despite a strong Q3 that they had, up about 30.3% YOY and about 11.75% quarter on quarter. The gold loan portfolio continued to show strong performance, growing at almost 48% YOY and about 10.5% sequentially, while X of gold loan, the loan growth was at close to 13% quarter on quarter. So strong business momentum for CSB Bank. Back to you.
Okay, thanks a lot for that. Well, gas stocks like MGL and IGL corrected after the government kept the APM gas price unchanged till further orders. The street was expecting, the Kirit Parikh committee's recommendations of price hikes to be accepted by the 1st of April. Surbhi is here to give us more on all of this. Surbhi, over to you.
Hi, thanks for that. So IGL and MGL are in focus today. That is because government has kept the APM gas price unchanged at $8.57 per MMBTU till further notice. Now there were expectations that the Kirit Parikh committee recommendations will be accepted by April 1st, which will get down the APM prices to $6.50 per MMBTU. Kirit Parikh said to CNBC-TV18 that they expect the recommendations to be cleared soon. Now, the recommendations were that there would be a price band for gas from oil fields, and the price band would be $4 to $6.50 per MMBTU. The domestic gas prices should be linked to crude prices. That was also another recommendation. They recommended removal of caps on gas prices in 3 years. City gas distributors and fertilizer sectors should be held to top priority for allocation in the intermediate period. Now, Citi says while the continued delay could create a near-term overhang for the CGD stocks, the pause in prices on a provisional basis suggests that the cabinet approval of the recommendations could just be a matter of time. Any modifications to these recommendations would need to be monitored. The continued stance on government towards the CGD sector is favourable, and they prefer MGL and IGL. Their top gas picks is GAIL, which according to them is also a key beneficiary from the lower APM prices. Jeffrey say while the delay was unexpected, they expect the new price notification to be announced in the near future.
Okay, all right, Surbhi, thanks very much for that. In fact, let's stay with this story and listen into what Kirit Parikh, the gas committee chairman himself, had to say on this.
I've heard from people that yes, the cabinet is considering it. It's likely to be approved, but when it will be is anybody's guess. We have said that by 1st January 2027, everything should be market determined. I'm quite hopeful that it will be accepted.
Okay, so that's Kirit Parikh on what the way forward would look like. He's quite hopeful that the price revision will get accepted and eventually come through, although it hasn't on the 1st of April. But KPIT Tech is under a bit of pressure right now. In fact, KPIT Tech, I think last time I checked, was down about, that's 5% gone. JP Morgan has cut the target price on the stock to 520 rupees, and that's a big fall in the target price. Nimesh is here. Nimesh highlighted this in the morning in our special segment Standout Brokerage Reports. Nimesh, what is the key rationale on bringing down the target price so much?
Hi, Sonia. So now, JP Morgan is seeing two big catalysts, or de-rating catalysts for KPIT, and that's why they've initiated coverage in the stock with an underweight rating and a target price of 520. JP Morgan is the lowest on the street in terms of target price on KPIT. Now, the two key catalysts are the de-rating catalysts, so to speak. One, they believe that the growth is likely to slow down beyond FY24 to less than 20%. And the scarcity premium with the IPO of Tata Technologies is now going to go away. So that's the first key reason. The second reason is they see challenges in terms of growth, and KPIT needs to win orders every year to maintain a growth above 20%, and that's going to be a key challenge because auto is a cyclical industry, and it's very difficult to give that kind of benefit of doubt to KPIT, given that it's trading at a 50 times valuation in terms of FY24 earnings. So that's the other key reason why they see a de-rating catalyst for KPIT Technologies. Now, as I said, it's an anti-consensus view coming in from JP Morgan, and hence the stock is reacted 5% in today's trade. I was looking at the brokerage recommendations. There are 10 brokers who are recommending a buy. One as a whole, and only 3 brokerages have a sell recommendation on KPIT Technologies. And I just said, KPIT with JP Morgan's note today of 520 target price, that's the lowest in the street as far as KPIT is concerned. The buy recommendations have an average target price between 750 to 1,050. So that's a wide range. But, the stock is reacting today largely on the back of an anti-consensus note from JPM, where they believe there are challenges for KPIT, and hence an underweight rating and a target price of 520, a potential 40% downside from current levels.
Okay, all right, Nimish, thanks very much for that. That's on KPIT Tech. That stock is down around 5%. But just watch out for a smaller stock such as RVNL from the broader markets. That one is only building and going from strength to strength. It's up around 8%. It was LOA for a project worth around 1,271 odd crores. So that was the latest news with regards to RVNL. Remember that stock has gained around 8.5% on a year-to-date basis already. And it's up 8% at the high point of the day. Huge amount of volumes traded on that one. So it seems as though the street is liking what it sees in terms of that project. Time for a break now, but Richard Jain will join in next to discuss more of the technicals. Stay tuned.
ICICI लोम्बार्ड बीफिट कवर से सारी मेडिसिन कैशलेस मिल गई।
कैशलेस मेडिसिन झूठ की वे खाद होती है मास्टर जी।
ICICI लोम्बार्ड हेल्थ एडवांटेज प्लस के साथ बीफिट कवर जो दे मेटर्निटी कवर, कैशलेस मेडिसिन जैसे फीचर्स। इट्स अनबिलीवेबल बट ट्रू।
तेरी रोशनी हूं मैं, किस ना।
The last hour. Anything can happen between the bells. But what happens during the last hour is what matters the most. The biggest market swings. A close-up look at what's driving them. And how the investors are reacting. Watch the most seasoned market mavens guide you through the most important hour of the trading day. NSE Closing Bell. At these times, only on CNBC-TV18 and CNBC-TV18.com.
Brought to you by Big Bold Beautiful Nissan Magnite.
कैसे करते हैं ट्रेड? ड्राइव 5 पैसा। Upcoming corporate action या न्यूज़ फ्लो। किसका हुआ मर्जर, कौन है नया CEO?
फाइनेंशियल डेटा मिलेगा अब हाथों हाथ। फंडामेंटल एनालिसिस से अब बनेगी बात।
जानो हर स्टॉक जो है ट्रेंडी, टेक्निकल एनालिसिस से भी लगेगी फ्रेंडली। क्वार्टरली रिजल्ट्स होगी सेंड, लक बाय चांस इन्वेस्टिंग का होगा दी एंड।
With 5 पैसा's in-depth company information, always stay up to date.
ऐसे करते हैं ट्रेड।
सोच मत छोटे, install mat. Investment in securities market are subject to market risk. Read all related documents carefully before investing.
Welcome back to Halftime Report on CNBC-TV18. For now, the market is still very quiet, really not too much happening at the moment. We have Richard Jain of 5paisa.com who's joining in on the show to help us with some stock ideas. Richard, before I ask you about the overall market, which seems like it's pretty much comatose, I wanted your thoughts on auto stocks which have piled up on the gains because of the good numbers this time. Hero, Maruti, Bajaj, Eicher, all in the green right now. Any thoughts on whether there's some follow-on buying that you expect here, and any other stocks that you're looking at this afternoon?
So I think yes, if we look at the entire pack, then today we have seen momentum in most of the stocks, and in fact, if we look at last 1.5 months, we had already seen a decent price-wise correction from the higher levels, and the Nifty Auto Index was trading around its support from where the pullback move has been started. So we expect this positive momentum to continue in the short term in many of the auto names. Stocks such as Maruti, Bajaj Auto, TVS Motor to an extent, the chart structure have been positive of late. So I think one can take it as a pullback move in some of the names, but ideally the near-term momentum should continue on the higher side.
Okay. What would your approach be towards the mid-cap index, which is managing to hold up?
So if we look at the broader markets, then the broader markets have been showing signs of recovery since Thursday last week, where we had seen the market breadth turning positive after some
some issue with your video. We'll just come back to you, Ruchit. There's some issue with your video at the moment. It's we're not getting it clearly. Go ahead. I think your video is back now. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I think the broader markets is likely to show some positive move in the near term. We had seen of about 9 to 10 trading sessions where continuously it was on the negative side, but since Thursday last week, the momentum in the mid cap and the small cap index have reversed. So I think till this, the market base is intact. So mid caps and the small caps would continue to show some pullback move as well.
Okay, all right. We leave it at that. Thanks a lot for joining in and have a great day. Let's step into a quick break. Up next, we'll connect with Sanjeev Bikhchandani of InfoEdge on the angel tax issue and how to approach things as we move along. More on that in a bit.
Avalon Technologies Limited, one of the leading fully integrated electronic manufacturing services companies with a focus on high-value, precision-engineered products, now makes an initial public offer of equity shares with a face value of 2 rupees each for cash at a premium. The 100% book-built offer being offered in a price band of 415 to 436 rupees per equity share. Opens 3rd April 2023, closes 6th April 2023. For risk factors and more details, refer to the red herring prospectus.
The stage is set for India's largest ever theatrical production. A visual marvel unlike any.
Welcome to the home of the arts, artists, and the audience.
Neeta Mukesh Ambani Cultural Centre presents the great Indian musical Civilization to Nation. Book your tickets now.
कैसे करते हैं ट्रेड? Try 5 पैसा. Powerful charts and research tool. One click trade is the new cool. Get access to live market data. Margin funding भी है रे बेटा. 5 पैसा app करो install. Trading made simple, simple for all.
With 5 Paisa's wide range of products, यहाँ वहाँ चाहे हो जहाँ, simply trade on the go.
ऐसे करते हैं trade.
सोच मत छोटे, install मार. Investment in securities market are subject to market risk. Read all related documents carefully before investing.
Indiabulls Commercial Credit Limited announces a public issue of secured redeemable NCDs, offering coupon rate of up to 10.50% per annum and additional incentive of 0.25% per annum. Tranche 2 issue is open for subscription. To subscribe, log on to www.indiabullscommercialcredit.com. For risk factors, detailed disclaimer and more details, refer to Tranche 2 prospectus available on the websites of SEBI, Stock Exchange, Company and the lead managers.
Welcome back. Well, for the markets, it's quite stable. In fact, the financials are now picking up around 0.3% currently for the bank Nifty. Maybe the PSU bank index should come up for you, and let's see whether that is seeing traction as well. So there is definitely buying which is coming into specific stocks. Just want to point out, we did talk about RVNL, which is up around 8%, but a smaller stock such as Tejas Networks is also seeing traction. So that stock is up around 5% on the back of an order win as well. So that stock too is seeing some amount of traction. A couple of these beaten down pharmaceutical stocks from the previous week is also seeing traction. So for example, Newland Labs, which is up around 4% today, has significantly underperformed, but this year it's seeing some amount of good gains. Wockhardt, which is down significantly over 50% from all-time highs, is now seeing some amount of buying at lower levels. That stock up around 3.6%. But let's go across to Surbi now. She has an important guest with her. Surbi, over to you.
Thank you very much, guys. Well, we all know that this whole angel tax issue has been quite a bother ever since we, had the passage of the finance bill. And unfortunately for the startup community, the amendments did not take away the sting of the tax hit. Basically, what's happened is that the purview of angel tax has now been increased to cover foreign investors as well, which means that in subsequent rounds of funding, foreign investors will, whatever is the amount they're putting in the company above so-called fair market value, the domestic Indian company, the startup, will have to pay tax on that. So we thought we'll get in Mr. Sanjeev Bikhchandani, founder and executive vice chairman at InfoEdge, to throw some light on this. He's, of course, an industry veteran, and InfoEdge does incubate a lot of these businesses. Morning, Mr. Bikhchandani. Thank you very much for joining in. Your first thoughts, is this a very big hit that could really disrupt the startups ecosystem?
We are waiting and watching. Certainly the feedback coming in from overseas venture funds is of some concern. We are hoping the government comes out with further clarifications. This potentially could have impact, but how much we don't know just yet.
Okay, so there is a wait and watch. I understand that's going on. What is the biggest issue? Is the valuation methodology the key sort of sore point? Is it the rate of tax itself? Because we know now that this will be income from other sources, so it gets clubbed along with business income. Is it that, the quantity or quantum of tax, or is it something else? What's really bothering you and the startup world?
Change from the past. Now, if you can say, okay, the tax will be X and it's flat, people can build it into the models and value the companies accordingly, because then they'll say, okay, from the outcome that we get, so much will go in tax. So what people want is certainty and predictability, and of course, fairness. It should not be an unfair rate of tax, but people want certainty and predictability. And they don't want to be subject to a taxman's judgment, say 5 years after the exit, or 3 years after the exit, or 5 years after the investment.
But this is not a new tax, Mr. Bikhchandani. This has been in existence since, I think, 2012. It's just that the purview is being extended to foreign investors right now. So how was the valuation done up till now? Is there a fixed formula that the taxman looks at? And do you expect the same will be applied to foreign investors now that they are under the purview of the tax?
The point is that if the taxman felt that investment was made at a valuation that is higher than fair market value, the taxman has discretion to treat the surplus, the excess, as profit in the hands of the company, and then tax at the corporate income tax rate, right? Now, this did not apply to AIFs. So actually, if foreign investors coming from overseas are clubbed with AIFs, then it is still okay. But if they're not clubbed with AIFs, if they're clubbed with non-AIF domestic investors, there's a problem. We are waiting and watching to see what the clarification is.
Okay, so let me take up that point. So in case these foreign investors can come in as AIFs and register here, will that ease the hit? And is that what you're seeking in terms of clarity in that fine print? We're all awaiting the finance ministry to come out with the details that will operationalize this new wider angel tax.
Alternatively, SEBI can say, okay, fine, just register with us as foreign VC funds, and you're clubbed with AIFs. That's also a possibility. We are waiting and watching.
So just to understand a little bit, what is the impact of this tax on your fundraising plans for your portfolio companies?
Not really. We are continuing to invest. We are impacted, and we consider the market correction, and especially in the US, where some follow-on investors might be a little constrained in investing in India. We are concerned about that kind of stuff much more than about this currently.
Okay, so you don't sound too perturbed as of now in terms of fundraising. You're hoping that this clarity from the finance ministry will allow foreign funds to be clubbed as AIFs, and then they'll get a tax exemption. So let's talk about that other larger concern, the impact of this mini US banking crisis. Has that really soured the environment and sentiment for fundraising in general?
Longer term, see, first the public market corrected substantially for new age tech companies. When that happens, the late stage funding gets impacted in terms of valuations and eagerness to come in. If late stage funding gets impacted, then Series C, Series D gets impacted, then Series B, then Series A. Finally, seed funding does get impacted. I think the impact on valuations and speed of investment would be more than whether or not good companies will get the money. Good companies will continue to get the money.
So, is it fair to say that the funding winter isn't too severe? Because that seems to be the narrative, right? That there is a large funding winter coming, but you're saying it's not too severe?
It depends on the company that's looking to raise the money and the quality of the company. For quality companies, there is no funding winter. There could be a valuation constraint. There could be a size of round constraint. There could be a speed constraint, how fast you get the money. But you will get the money. It's for the companies that are not so good, especially in later rounds, there'll be a challenge.
No, but the question is, what exactly is the definition of quality companies, right? Is it profitability? Because now, I mean, it seems to be across the board, the fact that there's not much money coming in for startups.
I mean, obviously, there's more concern about unit economics, path to profitability, customer loyalty, customer satisfaction, all those things, which were always there till about till excess liquidity came into the market. As far as the companies that went public is concerned, it is pretty obvious when they went public that within 2-3 years they have to get to profit to continue to enjoy the confidence of public market investors. The valuations declined steeply. It's in many cases simply because of the US correction in new age tech, which was followed by the India correction in new age tech. So there's some market impact there, and there is some fundamental company in investor expectations of profit there, which perhaps have been brought forward.
Well, Mr. Bikhchandani, some of that is reversing, right? I mean, the Nasdaq, despite all this volatility, is still the best performing index in the US and pretty much around the world. So then coming back to the market environment here, do you think the time is conducive with the lessons having been learned to take more companies public? Will you at InfoEdge be looking to take more of your portfolio companies public this year?
Our advice to our private portfolio will be get to profit before you try to go public. And then don't be aggressive on your pricing. In this market, you'll only get this price for this company. And a successful IPO is not depend on at what price you go public. It's about what happens in the aftermarket. Okay. But I don't see too many IPOs in our portfolio happening in a hurry.
Since we have you with us, I mean, a slightly off-track question. In general, IT, the overall sector, including services, do you see a broader slowdown for the rest of this calendar year, given that there's a lot of talk about delays in decision-making, perhaps even deferments in the US?
I don't particularly know, but I do know that IT hiring is slowing down in India for the last quarter or two, and this is largely because of what's happening in the US market. But really, one sort of informal, anecdotal piece of feedback we've received from the US, and this is anecdotal only, is that post-COVID, there had been a boom in IT hiring and a boom for IT companies, and therefore people ended up hiring at very high salaries simply because talent was in short supply. And now when there's a slowdown, companies have discovered that, listen, they're overpaying some people. And at least part of the imperative downsize is coming from the fact that they've overpaid in the past, as opposed to we don't need to. So let's see, maybe in a couple of quarters, things might change.
What about internet companies in India? I mean, tech stocks in the US are bouncing back, but will we see fewer IPOs here, you think?
India in tech equity valuations and markets and prices tends to follow the US with a lag of a quarter or two, because there's a fair bit of US money, overseas money, that comes into Indian capital markets. And if they see Indian internet companies are undervalued compared to their people in the US, you might see some firmness coming into those prices. But that activity is likely to be led by overseas investors and not domestic investors. We wait and watch.
Okay, we will let you go on that note. Thanks a lot for joining in. That's the sum and substance of what the way forward would be like in terms of the angel tax and the impact it would have. Let's slip into a quick break on that note. When we come back from the break, lots more coming up on the markets. We'll also get you an update on the commodity space. But for now, things are very, very quiet. Stay tuned.
इस बार टाटा आईपीएल जियो सिनेमा पे किसी भी स्क्रीन पे वो भी फ्री। चल भैया।
अभी तक मटेरियल आया नहीं?
पैसे नहीं है।
अच्छा।
यूग्रो कैपिटल का GrowX ऐप है ना, अब आपको भी मिल सकती है नॉन स्टॉप बिजनेस करने की आजादी।
इतनी जल्दी?
Meet the unsung achievers.
सोसाइटी के लिए एक बहुत छोटी छोटी बातें हैं, जैसे आप वो विक्टिम का सुन लीजिए, उसमें बिलीव कीजिए और छोटे छोटे चीज़ों में उसको हेल्प कीजिए। इससे भी उसका कॉन्फिडेंस बढ़ जाएगा और शी विल फील बिट रिलैक्स।
Who've turned their real life struggles into stories of grit and inspiration.
मैंने एक साल में कम से कम पीटा का जो है मैंने 111 लड़कियों को बचाया है, उसमें 10 लड़कियां माइनर निकली है और बाहर के जो है टोटल 451 लड़कियों को मैंने रेस्क्यू किया है।
A mega initiative to make gender parity an attainable reality. HSBC presents CNBC-TV18 Future Female Forward, the Women's Collective.
Presented by HSBC.
Co-presented by HCL Tech.
Knowledge partner Deloitte. Industry partner Vicky. Associate partner Reliance Industries Limited.
Whenever I had ice cream or cold water, I would experience a sharp shooting sensation. So I just kept ignoring it. Even my hot chai was giving me the same amount of discomfort. My dentist recommended Sensodyne. So now I can be completely carefree and sip my hot cup of tea. It really works.
What? बैंक के इतने सारे चार्जेस? Stop teasing me, Nanu.
अरे यार, ये मेरे सेविंग्स अकाउंट के सर्विस चार्जेस हैं,
Zero charges?
क्योंकि मेरा बैंक भी मेरी तरह, सॉरी तुम्हारी तरह है, यंग एंड फ्रेंडली।
आपकी तरह?
ए, क्या कर रही हो? नो तुम्हारी तरह यंग एंड फ्रेंडली।
Welcome back. Well, for the markets, it's quite quiet. You'd have to say the Nifty is absolutely flat. The positive is definitely that we do have the advanced decline ratio, which is managing to hold up very steadily. So 4:1 is currently where it's at on the National Stock Exchange. A lot of stocks buzzing around with the mid-cap index up around 0.3%. But let's focus on one particular sector. Titan's jewelry segment under Tanishq has launched a new range of solitaire diamonds and solitaire-based jewelry under the brand name Celeste. Shilpa Ranipeta caught up with Titan's MD on the sidelines of the launch event and asked him about the new product line, gold price volatility, and more. Listen in.
The Celeste line of solitaire-based jewelry, uses diamonds which have been sort of enhanced with a nanofaceting technology, which is a patented technology of our partner. And that enhances the fire, the brilliance, and the scintillation of the solitaire diamond to such a level that nothing like that has been seen before. So that is the diamond which is used in the Celeste line of jewelry, for which we are partnering with Sachin Tendulkar. Within that is a limited edition line of 100 stones, each one of which is a 1 carat and a D color flawless clarity, which is really the top of the line, rarest of the rare. You know, maybe 100 diamonds found in 5 million plus stones when you search for them. And those are specially curated for this particular event.
Right.
And where Sachin has come to honor us.
You spoke about the gold business. Now, gold prices are at an all-time high. Are you seeing any, usually when there's a volatility in prices, customers tend to stay away. Are you seeing any such signs, or is it still going strong?
It's too early to speak about it, but volatility is different from high price.
Yeah.
I mean, the prices can remain high, but sort of stable at that high level. Then consumers actually feel quite confident, reassured, including the investment value of gold, which if you yesterday or something, the papers covered how gold has been the best in the last 1 year.
Correct.
So it has been the story for the last 2 decades now.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sure as long as the prices remain stable, we have nothing really to worry about.
All right, time for a break now. On the other side, we'll continue our focus on the commodities space. Manisha Gupta, commodities editor, will be speaking to Vandana Hari.
ना इधर ना उधर, इस बार टाटा आईपीएल सिर्फ जियो सिनेमा पर।
Avalon Technologies Limited, one of the leading fully integrated electronic manufacturing services companies with a focus on high-value, precision-engineered products, now makes an initial public offer of equity shares with a face value of ₹2 each for cash at a premium. The 100% book-built offer being offered in a price band of ₹415 to ₹436 per equity share. Opens 3rd April 2023, closes 6th April 2023. For risk factors and more details, refer to the red herring prospectus. From David to Goliath, from the smallest business ventures to multi-million-dollar global corporations, meet the movers and shakers, today's newsmakers, and tomorrow's leaders. Understand what makes markets move, how companies make quantum leaps, and how giant corporations stay ahead. Get the biggest business stories of the day, power-packed into 30 minutes on Business 360 at these times.
The stage is set for India's largest ever theatrical production. A visual marvel unlike any.
Welcome to the home of the arts, artists, and the audience.
Neeta Mukesh Ambani Cultural Centre presents the great Indian musical Civilization to Nation. Book your tickets now.
ICICI Lombard B-Fit cover से सारी medicines cashless मिल गई.
कैशलेस मेडिसिन झूठ की वे खाद होती है मास्टर जी.
ICICI Lombard Health Advantage Plus के साथ B-Fit कवर जो दे मेटर्निटी कवर, कैशलेस मेडिसिन जैसे फीचर्स. It's unbelievable but true.
Welcome back. Joining us now on the show is Vandana Hari of Vanda Insights. Vandana, hi, good to have you. And first of all, your reaction to the surprise output cut that we've seen come in from OPEC before the meeting on a Sunday. What really was going through?
Yeah, good afternoon, Manisha. Indeed, I think the market is going to take its time wrapping its head around, why OPEC did this. And while, of course, the initial knee-jerk reaction has been bullish because we're looking at a potential supply cut of up to 1.6, 1.7 million barrels per day, if you also include the Russian cut, which has been ongoing since March. Well, that's been the initial reaction. There's a lot of a long string of consequences down the line. I think that the market will need time to actually process and then derive what is then a fair price for crude, because I think right now one can see the upside, the bullish story, but then there's questions like what is OPEC seeing in terms of demand, and how bad is it for OPEC to have had made such a surprising decision, and as you just mentioned in such a so quickly, and putting it out into the market on a Sunday, just one day before the JMMC meeting, which is today. They didn't even wait for that meeting.
Absolutely. So Vandana, just going through with what you said, that OPEC perhaps is looking at a weak demand coming forward. We haven't seen China's rebound very even. And the banking crisis, I mean, we're not out of those woods yet. So what's your sense on what is your outlook for demand for 2023?
Okay, so, on the demand front and specifically Chinese rebound, for sure it has been disappointing. Again, it depends on, which side of the market spectrum you stand. If you were very bullish at the start of the year, then obviously it was a disappointment, and we had been saying, for instance, at Vanda Insights from early on that, we expect Chinese demand to come back very, very gradually. It will, it's just a massive engine which will take time to gear up and ratchet up. But the other disappointment for oil bulls was, and to some extent perhaps for OPEC Plus, was also that the Russian supply disruptions were not half as bad as had been feared last year. And then we had in recent weeks the US saying that it's not planning to buy back any oil for its SPR as well. So one by one, every bullish or potentially bullish prop for crude prices just disappeared from the scene. But I'm still surprised at the OPEC Plus decision. especially given that crude had been recovering. Yes, it slid to like 15-month lows. We saw Brent below $73 just a couple of weeks ago at the height of the banking crisis. But as the fears over the banking crisis faded, crude had, it ended just below $80 on Friday. So it is surprising. The story behind that is, is it OPEC wants to be preemptive, proactive, act in advance of an anticipation. But then again, the question remains, how bad is it anticipating demand to be in order to have taken such a decision?
All right. But we know one thing for sure, Vandana, that OPEC is back in action and back in control clearly with the way the prices have reacted. What's your own sense for the prices going forward, though?
So, again, today's knee-jerk reaction, as I mentioned, it remains to be seen whether it still holds. These kind of price gains hold, especially in the coming weeks and months. We have the Fed next policy meeting coming up at the beginning of May. And, inflation remains a major concern. The Fed continuing to tighten, the ECB continuing to tighten monetary policy as a result of stubborn inflation. Those concerns are very much in place. And while the banking crisis has abated for the time being, we just don't know, where the next financial shock could come from. So in general, I think the broader financial markets still remain nervous. There's a lot of concern over economic growth, fears of recession. So if that risk appetite continues to wane, I dare say there would be a downward pressure again on oil prices. I'm not substantially revising my expectations for this year. As I've been saying, last year, Brent averaged around $100 a barrel. For this year in 2023, I'm expecting it to be $15 to $20 lower year on year on average.
Okay, all right, Manisha as well as Vandana, thank you very much for those insights onto crude prices, which has been a big concern considering the jump that we've seen in the past day odd. With that, it's a wrap on Halftime Report. This is lunch. Up next, stay tuned.